Hi and welcome to just another tutorial, and this time we're going to be looking at how to create a herbarium. So my name's Lee Ridge, I'm the external lecturer for horticulture for TAFESA. So let's just take a look about how we create a herbarium. If we drop across to our graphics page. So as an example, we may have got a small sample, maybe around about 20 centimetres long, 30 centimetres long of a plant, and we're thinking, this is what I want to press, this is how I want to press it, but how do I go about it? This is a good example maybe of what's required. Now ideally, this is Westringia fructuosa, and ideally we have a flower with this plant. We don't have any at the moment, but for demonstration purposes it will meet our needs. So let's take a look. At the moment you can see it's three-dimensional. Now, three-dimensional isn't really going to press that well. If you try and press this now, all you're going to do is create a big mishmash of leaves. So what you want to try and do initially is try and just trim off some of these auxiliary laterals. We might even be able to do it just with our fingers in this context, being that it's quite a small plant. Easy to handle. Now we're taking a look at it and we're saying, well, is that acceptable? Let's take a look. Maybe still a little bit too long, so we trim it off now, and perhaps now it's looking more appropriate. I can take that branch off and perhaps something like this. Okay, so now hopefully you can start to see, okay, it's starting to lay flat for us. When we press that, it'll press up quite nicely. So we're thinking to ourselves, well, that's quite appropriate, because now it's two-dimensional. We haven't got all these branches coming out of this, and we haven't got branches that are going to get laterals that are going to get squashed out from underneath. So that's going to be quite appropriate. Now for me, the way in which I go about pressing my plants is I use that wooden board directly underneath here. I use that, and all it is a little bit bigger than an A4 piece of paper. And initially, I'll put down some newspaper. So I'll open up some newspaper initially, and what that's going to do is that's going to absorb some moisture for us, which is going to be fairly important. I then place down some nice white paper so that when I place my specimen on here, that the plant and the leaf structure doesn't end up getting caught up with printing press material all over it. So you don't want half the advertiser on your leaf structure. So consider using some white paper. If you think possibly it's quite a fleshy plant, in this context it's not, but if you think some of your specimens are, then the use of Glen 20 or a similar sort of antibacterial fungicide sort of spray can be of use to reduce fungal outbreaks and rotting of your specimen while you're drying it, while you're pressing it. Place some more white paper across the top, just like that. Newspaper across the top again, and then from there you would put your next piece of white paper and your next plant, and so it goes with the layers of paper and newspaper interchanged in between. And then from there you grab, again I just use another board, another wooden board, just slightly larger than an A4 piece of paper. Put that on the top, and then put a counterweight on the top. Now that may be a series of textbooks is what I usually use, but whatever's going to work for you. Sometimes paving bricks, whatever's going to work. And about every 3 days, so now hopefully you've got around about 15 plants pressed underneath that wooden board here. And about every 3 or 4 days you need to remove the wooden board, remove the weights that are sitting on top, take that off and replace, not necessarily all the newspaper. If the newspaper's not too damp, then it can be reused again, but certainly the white paper. Replace the white paper, because that's now taking moisture, and so directly in contact with the plant. You want to try and keep the plant as dry as possible during this process. It'll usually take you about 2 to 3 weeks for the specimens to be dry, depending on the moisture content of the vegetative material. So replace the white paper, put new white paper on the top, new newspaper, on goes the wooden board again, on goes the weights on the top to press it down, and in time you'll end up with a herbarium. Now, what does a herbarium specimen look like? Well, I'll try and capture it for you if I can use our graphics screen again. it should look like something like this. So for us, in this context here, this is bridal creeper, or asparagus asparagoides. And very important, if you can, like I've said before, try and capture the flower or try and capture the fruit. And here we have the tubers underneath the soil that we've been able to capture and place them on there. And then, of course, the leaf structure from there. Without some identification other than the leaf structure, without some identification of, say, another attribute such as a flower or a fruit or similar, then it becomes extremely difficult. You can get the genus, but getting the species right can be quite difficult in identification. I've used gum tape here. You can see tape running across, which is Herbarium gum tape, they call it. But most folks will just use clear glues, and that will be appropriate as well. Down the bottom here, I'm not sure if we can pick it up. We may be able to. But down the bottom here, I've also then created a little image, just a little title box, and then from there, the data of where I collected it, the coordinates of the collection, and some notes in relation to the habitat in which I found it. So worth jotting down that sort of information as well, but make sure it's neat and tidy and make sure it looks appropriate. What you end up with is hopefully something like this. So I usually place my herbarium specimens with tissue paper in between. So hopefully you can pick up on that. A little bit of tissue paper in between each specimen. And for me, what I've done is I've then gone further and I've created just a presentation box for longevity. And all of my herbarium specimens over time are placed inside there. So, a bit of a juggling act, but worth considering because there's an enormous amount of work and effort that goes into a collection. And once it's done, you want to maintain it for the years to come. So either you purchase some sort of good sturdy box or you create your own, whatever's going to work for you. For me, I build this myself and hopefully it will stand the test of time. Now, of course, the beauty of a herbarium collection is that the collection will show the physical aspects of the plant for years to come. So 150 years later, you know, from the early explorers, you can still look at the specimens today and see that they're relevant, and see you can look at an example from Flinders and his expeditions, and you look at those examples and you say, wow, I can identify that just like I went and collected it and pressed it myself today. So that's the beauty of a herbarium specimen. Rather than using photos and images, you can actually see the plant in its context. You can actually view the fruit and the flowers as well. So hopefully that's been of use to you, and if you need assistance, please contact your faculty. Thank you.